This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
It's the Acura of Pembroke Pines Miami Heat and NBA report. Here's Ira Winderman.
Oh yes, Ira, how are you doing? We caught you again taking your glasses off. It's you're just slightly slow there on it.
I was expecting to hear more from our fine sponsor, the good folks at Acura of Pembroke Pines there. So I apologize. I thought we'd be pushing more products. I know you're not out there like you often are in our Friday broadcast there, but we got to push product also here. Even I, as the guest, appreciate that. So
it's all over the board that we're on
bottom
right
of the
now.
Screen, folks. Yes,
yeah,
bottom
it's
of the screen.
Bottom, top, everywhere. You know what I mean? That's why I think this format has exploded the way it has. Ira, 1 million downloads in the last 30 days. We had 95,000 downloads yesterday.
Yes, I have the wife and the son in the other room constantly clicking and running various programs there. Thanks to the added income you've given us in cryptocurrency, we've been able to get a whole motherboard going here. So we're doing our part, Big O.
Exactly. Everybody's doing their part, and that's the beauty. And we're not, when I talk for an hour, there's only a couple of minutes of commercials. That's it. We're not doing 25 minutes of commercials in an hour. And I think that's why people are, the chat boards are growing and people are tuning in because they're getting substance and they're not getting a whole bunch of fluff. And yet we're still taking care of our amazing sponsors at the same time because
so folks, where I'm pointing down there, right about there. If you're watching us on YouTube, all the information you need is there as we talk basketball.
That's right. And that's why we take care of our great sponsors and we broadcast out there twice a month and all of that. So, we do our part. We take care of our great spot. But plus, they've taken care of me, Ira. Sure. They've been with us for 11 years, man. I mean, that's loyalty, man. And I love the great people out there at Craig's Inn. They are just absolutely phenomenal with us. So we really, really appreciate it. And we appreciate all of you out there that are making this more your habit in visiting us over here. All right, Ira, before I get into maybe some Heat stuff, first of all, I want to bounce around the NBA. And first, Bosh, obviously, Hall of Fame, well-deserved. I know, and I loved, I think we all appreciate Chris Bosh, the human being, a lot. You know what I'm saying? Because he's a guy that actually showed us the side of being a human being many times. And what I loved in that speech is he talked about his pain also. That maybe it even lingers to this day a little bit that he couldn't finish his career the way he wanted. But I thought it was a phenomenal speech. I love the fact that he gave Riley back his ring also, which, in the big picture, I'm thinking that's a ballsy move by Riley to give him a ring to hold on until they win one. And if they never won one, what the hell happens then? You know what I'm saying? And so it's just kind of, it was a terrific night overall. It was one of those where you appreciated what he brought to the table and the selflessness that he brought to the table too.
Yeah, a few things to unpack there. First, Pat has duplicates of his championship ring. So Pat ain't giving out the main diamond encrusted one. That remains very much in the Riley hand down over the years, so that stays there. Here's something interesting, though. I spoke to both Pat and Chris on Thursday last week ahead of the induction. I asked Chris about the ring, and he was very coy. He goes, "Oh, I don't know. I think I'll just wait for the right moment." You know that he had that all planned, so he was coy with me. I talked to Pat Riley about it, and he goes, "This is really interesting." Now, I didn't use this in the story because I didn't want to give the Heat any more grief. Pat goes to me, I probably have to get that back sooner. The NBA might accuse me of tampering. And I figure with the tampering investigation ongoing, if I quoted Pat that way, the great Heat PR guy, Tim Donovan, would be calling me right away. What are you thinking? What are you doing? So I do think it caught Pat by surprise, but clearly it was something that Chris had in the works all along. The way he handled it, first of all, on Saturday morning, I got in touch and I asked, what's the order of the speakers? This was a huge Hall of Fame class. I know most of our listeners and people watching right now on YouTube were watching the Canes game instead. 16 people were enshrined. All of a sudden, I get the list. Chris Bosh is 16. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, what are we talking here? It starts at 7, 9:30, 10, 10:30. which proved to be the time. It just took forever. So I got to watch almost all of the Canes game. By the time they were kicking the winning field goal, that's when Chris stepped up and started his speech. And what a speech. And that one line, I know you know this because you do this as a radio person and media personality. When you write your scripts, you try to find that one line. And when Chris goes that all of his tears led up to planting the seeds for what would come next, you're like, whoa, that's an NBA player. That's a line I wish I could have used. How did he think about it? And that's the thing about Chris Bosh. Just as he was meticulous on the court with his game, with his practice and everything else, you know that speech was not written the day he arrived in Springfield, the week before he arrived in Springfield, even the month before. This was something that was months in the works. And as honestly, I thought after Paul Pierce spoke, the place would be emptying out. There were fans at the Springfield Civic Center. He's the local New England guy. That would be it. And if you left Chris Bosh's speech, you left the most impactful moment, I think, of that night. It was wonderful. It's available on YouTube. If you get a chance after the Big O radio show, go over and listen to it. It was fantastic.
That is the key part. Also, any report on how many strippers were waiting for Paul Pierce outside?
You know, it was interesting because Paul gave, I don't want to say defiant, but that kind of speech where he like, I don't give a crap what you say about me. I'm Paul freaking Pierce. I'm the truth. My ego is going to let nothing get in the way. It was, his was, and I know, you're probably preoccupied with the game also, or maybe Inter Miami or some of the other stuff that was on the exact same time. But Paul Pierce's speech reminded me of Michael Jordan's as sort of the final FU to anyone who dare cross his path or doubt him, whereas everyone else got up on the podium there, got up to the lectern and spoke about how honored they were, how special it was. Paul Pierce got up there and basically went, you darn well I expected to be here. I darn well expected to be here. Of course I'm a Hall of Famer. I'm Paul Pierce. I'm the truth. And then immediately attacked and listed every team that bypassed him in the draft before the Celtics took him. So there was a little Jordan-esque approach to that. God bless him or whatever. Chris was different. Didn't thank a lot of people, but mentioned them along the way. Really recreated his journey. It was special. Paul Pierce, more of his long-awaited FU moment.
Will they also include the wheelchair in the Naismith Hall of Fame? I'm just wondering for Paul Pierce, just in his corner.
Yeah, okay. So maybe Paul's injury wasn't that severe when he was.
Put his bust on top of the wheelchair. I mean, that's maybe.
You know what? Always interesting. People always ask me what team
pushing the wheelchair.
You know what? But people always ask me, what team are you enshrined with? They don't understand. This is not like baseball. You don't have a baseball cap on your bust. You're just enshrined as a player. So Chris wasn't enshrined as a Raptor or as a Heat. Paul Pierce wasn't enshrined. Of course, he is as a Celtic, but he also played for the Nets, for the Wizards, for the Clippers. So you're right. He could also be on the wheelchair team. They could put them all in there because there is no delineation there. Probably the most polarizing player during Hall of Fame presentation night. You have Chris Webber, of course, for what happened in Michigan and the payments and how the school itself wouldn't honor him. So that, of course, was a little bit different. You had Ben Wallace talking about the undrafted player. Paul took it the other direction. But honestly, Chris Bosh, I think if we voted, if we had little boxing scorecards at the end of the night, I think we would have given the last round and the night to Chris Bosh.
Well, and I wouldn't be surprised. It would take somebody that's, at another level at IQ wise to beat a guy like Chris Bosh, who's just, he's just a complete dude, man.
Special person. Yeah.
That's Chris Bosh. I will ask, I would imagine that Wade's not going to wait long, right? This is a first ballot thing in a couple of years. I imagine, right?
He is eligible in 2 years. We saw this, of course, with Derek Jeter in the Baseball Hall of Fame last week. There's always some guy out there who refuses to make it unanimous. There's always some guy, well, you're not Bill Russell, you're not Michael Jordan. Like, don't be an ass. Dwayne Wade is 100% lock in 2 years. Matter of fact, he's going to be the same year as Dirk Nowitzki, which is sort of ironic with the Heat and the Mavericks playoffs, but also the playoffs together. I almost wonder, Chris Bosh did not get in the first year for the reason of it was Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan, and Kevin Garnett year. They decided to keep it an intimate and special induction. I wonder 2 years from now in 2023, because of Nowitzki, how he changed the game with his game, because of Dwayne Wade, how he was top 2, top 3 all-time shooting guard. If they maybe keep that class small also, speech is a little bit longer because of special players. Dwayne Wade will be in Springfield 2 years from now. It will be his weekend. He will own that weekend. And no, he will not go in as a Chicago Bull or a Cleveland Cavalier.
Yeah, something tells me that maybe the Sun Sentinel will spend a couple of bucks and send you up there for that one, right? I would imagine.
They might swing a few bucks for that. And I was torn, but I got to admit, the one thing I understand also in our market, God bless Chris Bosh. But when you have a game on Saturday night and you have the Dolphins season opener against the Patriots, sometimes you got to make decisions also. So in this case, I would rather have been at games this season. You'll be catching me without this backdrop a lot when I'm on the road this season for the Big O show and these Acura Pembroke Pine reports. But that's the whole thing is you sort of got to figure when. I understand my place. This is football season. Keeping the stories down a little, enjoying talking to you twice a week. Clay Ferraro, on our weekly Wednesday report, also brought to you by Pallet Rock City. I enjoy that also. So, yes, but Dwayne will be different. Most Heat people were in Springfield this weekend for Chris Bosh. Every Heat person, including the Arisons and everyone, I can't fathom not being there when it's Dwayne Wade's time, the first weekend or second weekend in September of 2023.
Hell yeah, it's Wade County, man. I live in, so he's. I want to go there. By the way, I want to be there for that. Actually,
it's going to be special. Yeah.
Do the show out there for a couple of days. And
Dwayne was there. And Dwayne was there for Chris's thing this week. And that was important. He made a big presence there. He did the red carpet. He spoke about Chris on NBA TV show. Eric Spoelstra was there. Pat Riley was there. LeBron was there. And him and Chris did not have the best relationship. They didn't. And at times, LeBron treated Chris like another Mario Chalmers. But I think LeBron knew how important that moment was. So to see Pat Riley and Ray Allen as presenters, you have to be in the hall to be a presenter. That's why Dwayne or LeBron couldn't be. But they all realize that. And like you said, it'll be like Eric Spoelstra says. For Dwayne Wade, it'll be 10x.
Yeah, and I'm sure after his experiences post-Bosh with other players and other characters and other personalities, now that he got to bounce around a little bit, he probably is now appreciating what Bosh brought to the table.
Absolutely.
Because, I mean, hey, to this day, Chris Bosh still has the most important rebound, the most important block, and the most important assist in the history of the Miami Heat. Okay? End of story. And that rebound to Ray Allen and that block on Danny Green in the corner and the assist, obviously, to Ray Allen. Dude, you can't talk about a guy that, that guy made some impactful plays for this team to secure that championship. All right, let's move to the NBA now. There is talk about an in-season tournament. It's funny how Vlade Divac years ago, coming from the world of Europe, where flopping was, normal for soccer players. Vlade was patient zero, patient X, came to the NBA, brought flopping, and now flopping is something that has gone over to football also, and we know it's all over basketball. And so now, in soccer again, in-season tournaments are something normal that's been part of soccer life. So it looks like basketball is thinking about inheriting something else from the world of soccer. What do you hear about this in-season tournament, which is planned for a couple of years if they decide to do this?
It's all about the money. Do they get the television partners on board? Can they generate additional revenue? Then anything's a go, because just like the play-in tournament. But, to me, there's a fundamental difference why this is a terrible idea. Okay, I understand in soccer. You have UEFA. You have the FA Cup, for example, in Britain. In Britain, you have it everywhere. But here's the difference: in soccer, you don't have playoffs, except here for Major League Soccer. You just have a table, and the season ends. So you don't have a whole additional major part of your season. Here, even in the MLS, you have a soccer playoffs, which to a lot of players in the MLS is like, playoffs? What's that? The table is done. We got our points and we're done. So I think a tournament in season works in soccer because that's their secondary championship. There's the regular season, the only season. You finish at the top of your table after the final week of the season, you're done. So you can play something else. I don't see how a league that also has playoffs should also hold a tournament, Because first you're crowning, you know how this goes, you're crowning a regular season champion. You're crowning a playoff champion with separate statistics and a separate MVP. And now you're having a third thing. That's where I think this falls flat, is that it is different than soccer. You're never getting rid of your playoffs. Playoffs are an American thing. You have it in all of your sports. But I think adding another in-season tournament, so what? So if it's not holding the NBA championship, it's not holding that trophy. There's not a playoff system that's going to be better than the NBA playoffs. I think it could be intriguing. I understand you can offer $1 million per player they're talking about to the winners, which is great for Max Strus and Gabe Vincent. But you know what? For Jimmy Butler or someone who's making 40, some that Steph Curry $50 million now, is it worth it to play those extra games and risk injury when it's all about whether you're an NBA champion, not a Stern Cup champion or something like that?
You know, when I read that, and I'm with you, I don't think you need to do that here. Plus, I don't think we'll appreciate it as Americans. I think we'll look at it as a gimmick, is what we'll end up looking at it. Like, even in soccer here in this country, you know, we have the U.S. Open Cup. And that's, and let me tell you, the MLS players, they hate playing the U.S. Open Cup. I've been covering this thing for years. And obviously, if you're in the NASL, which no longer exists, or the USPSL, or now it's called the USL One, you know, those kind of things in USL. If you're in the lesser leagues in this country, because believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, there's like a second and a third and a fourth league in this country. Yeah, you look forward to that. Obviously, you want to play against the big boys, but we don't even take it serious even in this country that much on the upper levels of the MLS. So when I look at it,
one other thing, to add to your thought there, think about even the Gold Cup. The U.S. was fantastic in the Gold Cup this year. They beat Mexico. And yet when the U.S. lost their first two CONCACAF World Cup qualifiers, every analyst, whether it was Alexi Lalas, whether it was anyone else, they were talking about it didn't matter. All that matters is World Cup qualifying. No one cared that you're Gold Cup champion. What the hell is the Gold Cup? So again, that's a difference in mentality also. It has to have some discernible payoff. You know what would make it special? Oh, this. If the team that wins the cup becomes the U.S. Olympic team. Think about that. Think about if it had something tangible, that instead of sending an all-star team, all we hear about is these NBA all-star teams, the Olympics, they haven't practiced together, and the other international teams have. So maybe one out of every 4 years you hold the NBA Cup and the winner goes to the Olympics. That'll motivate players. That'll draw my interest to see which NBA team is going to go over to the Olympics that year. That would be a way to do it. But it would be nothing more than soccer's Gold Cup to U.S. fans. Hey, it was great. They finally beat Mexico. So what? They also crapped out their first two games in CONCACAF Olympic World Cup qualifying. You know, we know we're smart, especially here on the Big O Show. We know what matters more. You can't fool us.
Yeah, I'm with you. The only thing that I thought might make it interesting is if you grab the top 4 or 6 basketball leagues in the world and you get the champions of all those leagues and maybe the runner-ups, and then you kind of play a tournament at one point in the year and something like that. That might be interesting. But an in-season tournament, see, because that way at least we can get jingoistic, we can root for our Americans and all that good stuff, and then all the other countries can root for their champion from their league in their country. That's maybe something that could work.
NBA players wouldn't care. Just like, as you know, Big O, MLS teams sit a lot of their prime players in the Lamar Hunt Cup and, you know, things like that, because it just doesn't matter as much to them. The Premier League teams in the early rounds of the FA Cup, they sit their best players also. So, you know, we are what we are. Look, I have no issue with trying to juice the game a little. I have no difference. Hockey went to 3-on-3 overtime, or the NFL changed overtime and a field goal doesn't end it. I understand tweaks to the game. We should evolve to attention spans of fans. But I think sometimes you got to understand we are inherently different from world sports to some degree also.
Yeah, no, it's kind of like when it's funny when I hear soccer fans in this country. Well, no, it doesn't. You guys had put in regulation and promotion. I'm like, dude, we're Americans. We don't do that.
Right.
Go look at all of our sports. You think these billionaires are going to invest in something that can be sent out? Do you know what the minors are in this country? The minors are close to hell. You're right next to hell. It's not like in England that the first division gets a ton of support. Actually, people
Right.
care about the second and third divisions that are under,
Oh no,
the
the championship of the Premier League is just as big almost, and there's some teams there that have been on the cusp for years. They have big stadiums, but can you imagine David Beckham finally getting maybe his Miami stadium built, and all of a sudden you wind up relegated, and you're
boom,
talking about
USL.
tonight's big game against Spokane. Yeah,
Yeah.
try selling that in Miami.
Yeah, no, and they have Fort Lauderdale CF there. So imagine you get sent down to join that league. You know what I mean? It's like, oh,
And
crap.
Fort Lauderdale, and then Fort Lauderdale's promoted, and all of a sudden they're still playing the most important games over there by Commercial Boulevard.
That is just absolutely awesome. All right. I saw in some of your articles that you were talking a little bit about, is more offense going to be required from Jimmy Butler? And then I read it, and look, there's a part of me that here's the way I got enraged with that.
Okay.
If this effing team needs to lean on Jimmy Butler the entire year, I'm going to be pissed, because then I know Butler's going to be out of gas at the end. And then you got to, this is the year where Bam and Tyler and Duncan have to carry some big time weight here and make life easy for Butler, make life easy for Lowry, save these dudes for when it matters, because that's what they were made for. So let's not burn their asses out in the 82. Let the young guys need to effing step up this year. And, we're crossing fingers. If you could get Depot healthy towards the end of the season, then he also needs to help carry the load. My point is, the young guys better do their job, and you better not be wearing Jimmy out for the entire season, because I don't think that benefits Miami in the postseason.
Yeah, the point I was trying to make at Ask Ira today at sunsetbill.com was this, is that you've lost the offense of Goran Dragic and of Kendrick Nunn. You've replaced it with Kyle Lowry, but not all of it. Jimmy Butler's never been a 25-point-a-game scorer. It's just not who he is. Chicago, Minnesota, Philadelphia, don't think he'll be that here. So they have to find offense somewhere else. Maybe it is the natural growth, like you pointed out, Big O, of young players like Bam Adebayo and Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero. Maybe. You don't know it until you can see it. Otherwise, I think this team, adding in a PJ Tucker and a Markieff Morris, that's not the offense. Dwayne Dedmon, even Omar Yurtseven as a young player, that's not going to be there. So it'll have to come internally. But I still think it could be a struggle until the one point you made, and I didn't make that in that piece because I had space limitations. If Victor Oladipo comes back, I've got my offense. He's a known NBA scoring quantity, and it's there. Maybe my mid-season will see that. Otherwise, I do think when this season starts, last season the Heat did not have a single scorer in the top 25 in the NBA in the individual scoring race. That makes it harder. It's a lot easier to give the ball to Damian Lillard and say score, or Bradley Beal and say score. When you do it collectively, and you need 3, 4, 5 guys to score 15, 18 points, everyone's got to be, sort of at their moment, at their scoring level in those games. So I think offense will be interesting. Maybe Kyle Lowry said, screw it, I got $85 million, I'm going to score more points. Or maybe Jimmy Butler says, as the questioner asked in Ask Ira at sunsetbill.com, because Jimmy doesn't have to be facilitator, because there's another defender in the backcourt in Kyle Lowry, maybe Jimmy can turn his focus a little more to offense. But that's where Eric Spoelstra is going to come in, media day. The first day of camp is 2 weeks from today. Eric Spoelstra is going to come in and talk defense, because that's what Miami Heat coaches do. But I'm going to be keeping an eye on the offense, Big O.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. And I'm going to be frustrated if the 3 young cats don't pick it up, because I think this team, actually, at least for this first season, I worry about other seasons because, man, they're getting older up there. Sure. But those young guys have to prove that they can carry the load night in and night out and then all those other guys you talked about are going to help you out defensively so much. And I think that's the Heat's vision, is that, hey, our young guys will pick it up a lot more. We could get Lowry and Jimmy to do their thing late in the season, the postseason, to put it over. And then we've got our core of guys that are dedicated to defense and will help, obviously stop the opponent, and then our guys will score, because the way the team is built, they're counting on those 3 young cats, man, to step it up. And And maybe even if the Strus gets loose, you get another shooter in there. And hey, listen, who knows? He might be a hell of a lot more consistent than Kendrick Nunn at shooting that three.
Sure, and look at Tim Duncan. I wish. Look at Duncan Robinson from year 1 to year 2. The Heat players grow also. So Duncan Robinson came in the first year, couldn't defend anyone, so they couldn't keep him on the court. Then he comes in, all of a sudden has this breakout record-setting second year. Maybe Max Strus is on that curve, but you know what? I wouldn't doubt the Heat's developmental program. It's special enough. Yeah, I'm curious about that also, Big O.
I definitely would never underestimate the Heat's development. That's for sure. Or scouting now. I mean, that's you just never know what they're going to end up finding. Follow him on Twitter at Ira Heatbeat. Catch his work there at the South Florida Sun Sentinel. Do what I do. Subscribe to the Sun Sentinel and support Ira and all the other great writers that are there at the South Florida Sun Sentinel. What are you working on for the rest of the week, my man, so they can check you out?
Doing a story just now. The Heat right now. I just checked to see if there's a mask policy or not because I've watched all these NFL games. No one's wearing a mask as of now. On the Heat's ticket splash page, it is masks are required. So you know what? Oh, we talk about non-sports stuff sometimes, but I know that's important to fans. So as of now, the Heat are saying masks are in place, indoor arena, no vaccination requirement. That's political. I'm staying the hell out of that for now. But, that's something also. So, again, all these teams trying to work through what's right, what raises revenue, how they can make the fans most comfortable. That'll be sort of an ancillary story, honestly, throughout the season.
For sure. And politically, that the NFL and the NBA are in two different spots, and more often than not.
But all the NFL teams and NBA teams in the state of Florida are under one governor, and that has a lot to do with it also. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we're loosey-goosey with him. Everybody's free. Go ahead, kids.
He said it. He said it. That guy over there said it.
Ira, thank you as always, my brother. You're the best. We will talk on Friday, my friend. Well, actually, we'll see you tomorrow with Clay.
With Clay Ferraro on Pallet Rock City's Inside the Paint. We'll give you a full hour, and we'll correct everything that Big O said that was wrong. Thanks, Big O.
There you go. That'll take 2 hours.
There is no need.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.